In this video, I'll be discussing how phytase and phytic acid affect phosphorus quantities in manure, specifically in non-ruminant livestock including pigs, layers, and broilers. As we have discussed in previous lessons, part of good farm management is nutrient balancing, that is, keeping records of the amount of nutrients coming in, how many are leaving via products such as meat, milk, or eggs, and how much is unaccounted for. In the diagram, we see this listed as inputs, such as animals, feed, fertilizer, etc., the managed outputs, such as animals or animal products, crops, and manure, and what is left is the unmanaged outputs, which are often lost to the environment or into the soil. Nutrients that are unaccounted for pose a risk for contamination of surface water, groundwater, and may also pose a health risk through the spreading of pathogens. One nutrient that has consistently been monitored by not only producers, but by environmentalists and lawmakers is phosphorus. Phosphorus is a necessary mineral for all animals. It aids in bone formation and is integral in energy metabolism to produce ATP. Dietary phosphorus is found in basal ingredients like forages and grains, but can also be given as a mineral supplement. As a mineral being mined for use as a feed supplement, inorganic phosphorus is the third most expensive component of the non-ruminant diet. This chart shows where the most amount of phosphate rock is mined, with most of it coming from China or Morocco, meaning that it must be more expensive because it has to be imported. Additionally, several communities, especially in Florida, where phosphorus is mined in the U.S., have noted that mining causes phosphorus to be accidentally deposited into water supplies, leading to numerous environmental problems. As we discussed in class previously, excess phosphorus on farms can lead to runoff into surface water, causing eutrophication, or an algae bloom in fresh water, ultimately leading to dead zones when the algae dies and takes all the oxygen with it. This also leads to contamination of drinking water and complications in the populations of local marine life. Additionally, excess phosphorus in manure that is used as fertilizer can cause excess phosphorus runoff from the crop fertilization, as well as small amounts of leaching into groundwater, however not enough for it to be a significant problem. The problem with phosphorus is that in monogastric animals, or animals with only one stomach, phosphorus is not absorbed efficiently from feed because monogastrics lack the required enzyme, which I will explain shortly. Because it's not being absorbed from the feed, supplements must be given. For those who've ever been to a nutritionist or eaten, for example, a high-protein diet, you know that if you eat too much protein in one meal, only a small amount will be absorbed, and the rest is excreted through urine or feces. The same concept applies with phosphorus. The supplements often provide too much, and the excess will just come out the other end. This is mostly due to the fact that farmers simply don't know how much they need to be feeding their animals. As I mentioned before, monogastrics lack an enzyme required to digest the full amount of phosphorus in their feed. This enzyme is called phytase, and it is found in a variety of different sources, including animal, plant, and fungi, but its main use is in catalyzing the hydrolysis, or breaking down of phytic acid. Phytic acid contains high amounts of phosphorus. In cereal grains, like corn or oats, about 65 to 70% of the phosphorus is bound to the phytic acid. Basically, it acts as a lock around the phosphorus, and phytase is the key that unlocks it so it can be digested. To overcome this issue, farmers have adjusted feeding strategies in a few different ways. For example, by feeding low phytic grains so that less phosphorus is unavailable from the beginning, or by feeding a phytase supplement to unlock the phosphorus. Low phytic grains, or LPAs, are grains that contain low amounts of phytic acid. Recently, transgenic crops that are LPAs have been developed, and research has shown that up to 99% phytic acid can be removed in some strains of mutant maize and other cereals. The downside is that inorganic phosphorus supplements would still be required. However, there would not be as much wasted phosphorus in the manure. The other solution is phytase supplements. By adding phytase, the normally unavailable phytic acid, phosphorus, is made available for digestion, eliminating the need for supplements and therefore reducing the amount of phosphorus in manure. Further studies have shown that phytase in the feed of broilers led to dramatic improvements in weight gain, and in pigs and chicks, improvement was seen in amino acid utilization, which resulted in higher productivity. Additionally, research is currently being done in order to determine the optimum amount of phytase for each species as well as the effects of other compounds. One interesting way that scientists have approached this issue is with the introduction of a transgenic pig called the EnviroPig. Scientists from the University of Guelph in Ontario used Yorkshire pigs and so far have seen very positive results after inserting a gene that allows for the synthesis of phytase naturally in the body. The phytase is created in the salivary glands, so that when they eat and swallow, the enzyme is activated and begins immediately catalyzing reactions. Sadly, after 10 generations that did successfully pass their genes on to their offspring, the researchers lost their funding. A few key points to take away from this video. First, good farm management requires a good system of nutrient balancing and accounting. Without keeping track of how much is coming in and how much is coming out, not only is the environment potentially being affected, but from a financial standpoint, the farm is losing money. Feed is expensive, and wasting money on feed that isn't improving productivity is inefficient. Second, monogastric animals lack the enzyme phytase, which allows for phytic acid phosphorus to be digested. Non-ruminants have this problem, however ruminants do not, because of the microorganisms in their stomachs that have absolutely no difficulty breaking down phytic acid, so phosphorus absorption is much easier and much more efficient. Third, by adding phytase supplements to feed, phytic acid phosphorus can be digested. Phytase would allow for an increase in the digestibility of feeds and the productivity of livestock, since without it, the feed does not meet the nutrient requirements of the animals. And lastly, and most importantly, the addition of phytase does reduce the amount of phosphorus in manure. Phytase supplements would effectively eliminate the issue of excessive amounts of phosphorus in manure only with the proper manure management and nutrient management plan. Without proper manure management, phytase supplements are pretty much useless if all the manure is going into a stream. A few ways to ensure that phosphorus levels are not too high or causing problems to the environment is to review local regulations. The EPA sets most of these regulations, however, there are some small differences in policy, varying from state to state or even from county to county. Another way is to measure the phosphorus content of the soil and water on your land using a tester, which can range anywhere from $40 to $1,400. Overall, reducing the amount of phosphorus produced by animal agriculture is incredibly important in order to keep our communities and the environment healthy.